Well, hello and happy second Sunday. Refuse to call it Monday. Hope you all are having a great afternoon or evening or wherever you are. Mm, Today, we definitely have some mm, hot trials. Absolutely. One of them you may have forgotten a little bit about Mr. Larry Millette, the missing wife of his Maya Millette. 2 years she's been gone. This case has no body, and it is in pretrial hearing on whether he will come up for murder trial. We also have the jury selection for Mr. Alex Murdaugh from South Carolina, our famous attorney gone bad, the one with over 100 indictments on him for misdemeanors, miscrimes in financial ways, in bad lawyering. Yeah. So uh, let's just get into it. I hope you all are having a great day. I'm going to start with, we're going to start with Alex. Alex, if you'll remember, family man, this is his wife, that's his son Paul, and his older son Buster. Alex is in jury selection right now with his trial for the murder of his wife and his son Paul, his younger son Paul. Now, we've given you a lot of information on this case already. Basically, where it stands now, we're going to trial for murder. He will not face the death penalty. The prosecution, uh, uh, Crowton Walters, I believe, is the lead prosecutor in this case, and he has stated in a statement that they're going to go for life imprisonment, if anything. The death penalty is off the table. Okay. Um, that's news here. I don't think I have given you that before. I do have linked down a good article below that will list the timeline and everything, and is doing updates every day as the case progresses. The one thing with this case is today they did release audio of the jury selection. And I'm going to go over a few of the key moments of that. Jury selection is quite the process. We all know that there's a questionnaire given, and basically the premise is we're trying to get a number of people together that don't have a bias towards the case one way or the other. In the case of Alex Murdaugh, that's going to be pretty tough anywhere in the state of South Carolina, let alone in the county where he is. Okay. Remember, they had to remove pictures from the courtroom of his relatives, his grandfathers, his great grandfather, all judges and lead politicians and lawyers from the area, well respected, ingrained. It's said that the Murdaugh family is quite entrenched in that area in both the law and some not so up and up kind of activities. A lot of like whatever they say goes kind of stuff. Here on the East Coast, we know what we call that, but they don't say that down there. It's not like that. It's just a well connected family with a lot of money, a lot of connections politically, through the police departments, through the legal system altogether. They've served on the benches in most cases, well deserved. Okay. Well deserved. Okay. It's a family that's been there long time, long history in the area. Alex is known to be somewhat of the black sheep of that family. Um, it was when we talk about Alex, if you talk to the people from the town, and I'm not speaking like I have spoken to them, obviously, but from the reports, people are reporting. There's reporters all over the place. There has been for years. This has been going on for years before we got to trial. They went, this was back in June of 2021. Okay, so they've been talking to people for a while, and all of the reports are that when it comes to Alex, the first time in this family, words like lazy, sneaky, and all kinds of stuff comes up. He just wasn't perceived the same way as the rest of the family. Although he was a lawyer, he had a partnership with several from the family and friends in the area and coworkers, all which has since been renamed and he's been removed from since he was disbarred, and a lot of his activities have come to light. um he no longer has those positions at all, and people are talking more freely about him. Prior, you just didn't talk about family like that. Nobody said anything like that. Okay. Well, Alex is living with a lot right now. Notably, his son Buster. Over the year, there is one quote that I found today that it was a little surprising to me because it was the first time I've heard Buster's voice. Okay, Buster, the older son, recently there was the settlement, of course, in the selling of the property where he would receive some money, but also in the reselling of the death of Mallory Beach, which was the boating accident, which brought to light a lot of the shenanigans that have been going on in the Alex Murdaugh family, in the immediate family right there, regarding Alex Murdaugh, his interference there, his keeping all of the teenagers were that in revolved with this boating accident were underage and all extremely intoxicated, visibly intoxicated, and yet there was no breathalyzers taken on any of them. There was no strict report. There was no misdemeanor. There was nothing actually reported until everybody started squawking about it. Well, Mallory Beach was missing. She fell off the boat. She was found dead a day later. Okay, in this is not good. Okay. There was conflict on who was driving that boat. Okay. There was Alex Murdaugh interfering, allegedly interfering in who testified to what, which one of his sons came forward. You name it. Anyway, it came to light that Paul, the younger son, was the driver, was extremely drunk, had used his older brother's ID to attend a convenience type store that sells with the false ID and received the beverages that everybody was consuming in addition. That they are also named in this lawsuit. This against Alex Murdaugh is still named again by the Mallory Beach family in regards to her demise. Um, but Buster, they have settled with monetarily. They have settled for a important portion of his inheritance of the selling of his mother's home. And they have decided not to pursue or ruin his life any further than it already has. Okay. Buster's statement that I found today, um, which I started this with, is that he doesn't want it out there that he supports his father in regards to this in any way. He's making no statements of that. And I found that very cutting. Remember, he has lost his mother and his younger brother. And he is living in a town that and having to deal with the fact that that is his father on trial and all the things that have come to light. And when I say all the things, I mean 100 indictments of misconduct in how he lawyered and represented people for settlements against insurance companies. He won law cases and then absconded with the money. He played, let me put it here, here, there, and everywhere, but where it belonged. And he has to watch the good name of his family, his uncles, his grandfather, his great grandfather, all his relatives be disgraced in such a manner. It can't be easy for this child. I kind of feel for the surviving Buster Murdaugh. I do. Um, his inheritance is tainted forever. Even if things are tied up with his mother, we have to remove Alex from it. But there will be people coming from it anyway because Alex Murdaugh had anything to do with the gaining of it. And people are going to want it. There's a lot of people to make happy monetarily. Buster's life as he knew it is over, and due mainly to that man right there, Alex Murdaugh, his father. So I bring all this to your attention just so you remember that besides the victims of the murder, there are those that survive in the family that are also affected. Alex Murdaugh's reach was large, it was everywhere. And there are so many people affected, so many of people affected by this. So during the jury selection, we'll get back to today's events. First day of jury selection day today. Of course, there are all of the normal things that happened. You know, uh, We have our judge. He's quite, yeah, he's quite formal. Yes, he's been keeping things on light. Okay. And one of the more expected. I expected this, but still, when it happened, I was amazed. But they're talking about where do you work and whether you're married or not, and if your schedule can accommodate that. And then the judge asks the room of like that whole room is full of prospective jurors at the time. And when this question comes up, have you heard of the Alex Murdaugh case? Every single juror stood up, and you could hear it audibly because you can't see it. They're only playing the audio, but you could hear the whole room rise. It was the length, the noise of it. I was just like, wow. And I received several DMs about it too. Like, did you just hear that? I'm like, yes, I did, because that's the reality of this case. And the judge brought that to light. He said, if you think we're going to get a jury that hasn't heard about what's going on, there's just no way. It's just whether or not you can weigh in reasonably that's going to matter. So the questionnaires were given out, and they're going to be a little more detailed in regards to how you feel about certain things. And there were the standard questions on, do you know anyone that's been charged with anything like this? Do you have anyone? Anybody that's gone up a crime similar to this, anybody in your family or anything like that? Do you have anybody in your family or yourself that serves in the law in any way, has any connections? And here where it gets a little dicey is because everybody there has to answer whether Alex Murdaugh or his partners or anyone, related to him has represented them in a legal manner anywhere. And that gets tough because they're one of the biggest families out there, you know? Yeah, 45 of them. She's always is giving me the number that there was at least 45 of them at the time. That's a lot of people, and can you imagine that noise? Yeah. Well, now they have to answer on whether any of them had contact with Alex Murdaugh in a legal capacity or any other capacity. They need to disclose their familiarity with the family. Did your children go to school with Buster or Paul? Were you sitting on the PTA with mom? Were you a neighbor? I mean, the questions are deep. What they're going to try to do now is try to get them as impartial as they can. Okay, and it's gonna be rough. It is gonna be rough, but I trust the system. It seems like this judge is pretty well on it. He realizes the reality of the case. Okay. They're doing audios. They won't do the audio for sidebars and stuff like that. That's the same thing with the Millette case that's going on. The Millette case is allowed to have certain courtroom feeds, like Law and Crime, I believe, is doing a live feed on them, and several of the local TV stations in San Diego are doing a live feed of the case, and you can watch the testimony. I have given you a link below to that also. For Murdaugh, the audio is available if you go to the link that I gave you. That's one of the major South Carolina news organizations that is doing a live feed and clips on things that are going on. It's also updating a timeline on a daily basis. It's also giving you like all of the key players. Like if you go there, you will find out, that the judge is still Judge Clifton Newman and that the lead prosecutor is Creighton Waters. Who are the defense attorneys? It tells you all the lead players all the time. It tells you an interactive timeline. It gives you some of the actual key evidence. Like in this case, there's the 911 call that came up in the pretrial hearing. Remember, prior to getting here, this is the actual trial. We had a pretrial hearing which laid out a lot of the evidence. And there was a lot of stuff that came to light that had to be pulled back and relooked at. Remember, we were talking about the blood spattered shirt and how the CSI team may have made that inadmissible with the way that they handled that evidence because the defense team could not adequately have it retested. And the defense team has decided to bring a witness forward that goes contrary to what that T-shirt says. I do believe that some of that is coming in. I don't think all of it is, but we'll see as it goes. But there's a lot of contention about the blood spattered shirt. I mean, there are reports in regards to whose blood it was and how it was tested, but now all of that, if it comes in, can be contested with this other witness. However, they don't have the T-shirt to do it. Like they don't have it in a state where it can be retested, which makes a little bit of a problem. They have the 911 call. They also have recently, the other month that the the defense attorneys, Dick Harpootlian and his co-chair, Jim Griffin, I believe his name is, they brought forth an alibi. They said that no, Alex only discovered that, the reason you see that his cell phone records are showing him in the area and he called 911 is because he discovered the bodies. Okay. He was visiting his ailing father. And that's why he wanted to meet with his wife to get her to go visit with the father because he wasn't doing very well. And they've got some text messages back and forth from Alex and his wife. And they actually also have, which I'm waiting to see during the trial, there's a lot of speculation and rumor going around about did Paul, what did Paul actually text out or show out or video out or image out to his friends prior to his demise, prior to being shot? Now, we haven't seen any of that. Nobody has images of whatever it was going, but everybody's talking about it. That's going to come up in the upcoming days. That's definitely on the list. What we also have is a pretty strong jury list. I mean, not jury list, witness list. Okay. I got 9 pages of a witness list. Okay. For the joint witnesses on this trial for Murdaugh, we have 222 names listed before we even get to defense only. And then they add defense only, we get to 255 totally submitted as of January 22nd. That's not an altered list or a confirmed who actually will be coming forth. But there are quite a few interesting names on there. Notable names on that list include Buster, uh, Alex's brother Randy, his brother-in-law John Marvin Murdaugh, his sister-in-law Liz, his former housekeeper's son Tony Satterfield, who he settled for the money that he stole from the Satterfields in the death of the housekeeper, their mother, who worked for Murdaugh, who then died in his home falling downstairs. Apparently, a dog pushed her, or she tripped over the dog, fell down the stairs, and died from her injuries. And Alex Murdaugh convinced the sons of her to actually go forward and file suit against the insurance company. He represented them, he got the money, and then he kept it. This is a problem. You see what I mean? The misdemeanors of Alex Murdaugh have not helped him at all and have led to this terrible, vicious cycle that includes running of drugs, having someone shoot him in the head for sympathy to get out of an indictment. And yeah, no, I'm not kidding. No, no, you heard me right. Yes, that came forth in another trial with Mr. Little and another convicted partner of his in the drug part. He admits to having a drug problem. He's been in rehab. Okay, but yes, he hired him to shoot him. So, maybe sympathy, they wouldn't come forward with the indictment to take the heat off of all the news and speculation about him. I kid you not. Yes, that's how crazy it is. It sounds like a drama we're watching on TV, doesn't it? Like it's one of the best. You watch a docudrama, you watch the actual facts on the Alex Murdaugh case, it's better than anything anybody's reading out there right now on what can happen in a vicious cycle when you just start to go the wrong way and how it just piles up and piles up and piles up and ends in tragedy, murder. That is what the prosecution's putting forth in this case. That these misdeeds that he's trying to hide are part of the motive as to why he killed his wife and son. It would be noted that Paul was about to be indicted for the murder of Mallory Beach, or not the murder, but the manslaughter, the boating accident. Charges were coming forward. It was rumored that that was coming down the line, that the story was straightened out, and that he was going to have to face some accountability. And perhaps Paul was willing to do it. And then everybody would know how Alex interfered. Maybe that's part of it. There's also that there was trouble in the marriage, that his wife and he were no longer going to be together. And perhaps if they divorced, she could testify against him for other things. It gets very convoluted and we don't know. And I'm not going to speculate as to what it is, but that's how they're going forth. The prosecution is that he's just trying to cover up his his misdeeds. And this is how it got this way, that he was a desperate man. And with everything that was coming out about him, you could see why they would say that he might be desperate. Okay. This was Alex arriving today for court. He's no longer bald. Okay, this was actually just 4 or 5, like I guess 6, 7 hours ago. His hair is growing in. He's lost a lot of weight compared to how we saw him at the beginning of the trials. He was a lot full, even in that picture with his family. Okay, he's a tall, stately man. He looks worried, but he doesn't look extremely worried to me. I mean, but then again, how do you look if you're used to a courtroom and you're used to walking in and out? Remember, it's been 2 years, pre-trial hearings, motions. He's been at most of them, bail bonds, pleadings, all of it. Okay. And, you know, now we're at the trial. So juries will be selected. It's a process. It'll be a couple of days. I'll keep you updated. And then we'll get on with the trial. Let me just check and see if you guys have any. This is the lovely, I wanted to show this because this is one of the, very stately, large, courtrooms of South Carolina. Very prestigious. And it was just a beautiful building. I thought you deserved a little bit of break from the tediousness of Alex. Just take a look at that one. Okay. Now, let me see if I can pull up my chat. Okay. Always Createful reminds us that there was supposedly a text from his wife to, I believe, a sibling or friend stating that something was fishy shortly before his design. That is correct. There has come to light that she said he was up to something, quote unquote, not just fishy. Alex seems to be up to something, but she was going to, all against her better judgment, she was going to meet him anyway. Okay. Because, she was hesitating to. Okay. Mhm. Yes, thank you for that always. Always, I'm so glad you're here. I hope you're having an okay day. She also, I saw mention this morning that the Kinsey report has in evidence a photo of a shotgun. Not sure if they have recovered a possible weapon or just to show the type of weapon used. I believe from what I read is to show the weapon used. I believe they did not recover the actual shotgun yet. That was another bone of contention with them. Uh, They have dismissed so many people from the jury pool already in large quantities. Like they're trying to do it, pretty well. It's like, thank you, Shill, for trying to do double mod duties. And thank you, all of you who have stopped by to hear about this. I'm just checking for more. I do agree. Always mentions that the judge's first concern was to weed out anybody who didn't want to be there. He knows it's going to be a long trial. He knows there's a lot of evidence. There's a lot of, like 255 names, yo. 255 names. That's going to be long. Okay, we're talking weeks here, and he wants to make sure that everybody that's part of the process wants to be there and do their job. So he is putting the questions out right away on anybody that's got anything going on or whatever. He's weeding it down quick that way because it's going to be the long haul, and you need people that are committed, but you don't want them committed for the wrong reason. Okay, you don't want them there with bias to say, I just want Alex to go to jail. Like we don't want that. That's going to be an automatic mistrial. That's going to automatically open up the door for appeals. Okay, um, you know, of note, I would like to say that the defense team put out a joint statement last night that said, we look forward to dismantling this case, but we're not going to talk about it anymore. Those I'm kind of shortened what it was, but that's the gist. That's the nuts and bolts of it. They did it together, Griffin and Hoop. I forget, I can't even say it, but you know who I mean. Yeah, they put that out together, okay, and that's it. They're going to stand behind that. Yeah, they're not going to be going bits and pieces. And you know what? I admire that. That's the way it should be. None of this, like every day that the trial goes on, back and forth with the prosecution and the defense in the news, taking shots at each other for this, that, and affecting the case. Like that's not cool. Like I don't like that kind of stuff. I mean, me. I want to stick. I want to hear the facts. I really not interested. The drama's cool, it's entertaining. I get that. But that's not why I'm into this at all. This legal process with Murdaugh, it's not that it's one of the top cases out there. Yes, it is. I admit that. Okay, it is one of the top searched cases out there. It's going to be in the top 10 for 2023. Absolutely. It's been in one of the top news stories for the last 2 years since it happened. But why? The 100 other indicted charges, all the other stuff that's going on. Do you know how many cases he's got against him right now, civil and criminal, that he's mentioned in, linked to, and part of? Um, that's why. Okay, not because of who it is. I mean, it is intriguing. It's a huge family. It makes great, you know, story to read practically because of who he is, okay, and where he comes from. But it's the deeds, it's the legal like how are they ever going to untangle all of this mess? No one's going to get what they deserve financially, all the money that he took. There isn't enough for everyone to get. And he's no longer able to lawyer, he's disbarred. Okay, so it's kind of sad. It's sad for the victims because I don't see recourse that's really going to be justice for the financial victims I'm talking about. Okay, and also you can't bring back the lives of those who are lost. So what real justice, except for this man may spend the rest of his life in jail. Uh, yep, they have. Yep, 14 days is what I heard. Always grateful, 2 weeks. They said that yes, I had heard some of the lawyers are saying like nine I'd heard between 1,000 and 800 jury summonses were sent out that they had to go through that pool. Yep. Yeah, especially with those 255 names, not all of them, Turtle, will be coming forward. They're just potential. If it goes anyway, like some of the trials I've been watching, the judge has discretion to say, like, no, we're not going to do that, that, and that, because that just repeats what we've already heard. If it's not new, you're not bringing it in. So there won't be 10 witnesses saying the same thing, especially if they're trying to keep on schedule with the 2 weeks. Okay. Depending on what each one has to say, that's just a potential pool. I mean, I guess it's to lay out the case on where they can go, depending on what the other side is bringing forward to, right? And how things go over. Okay. Oh, always grateful. What do you think of Harpootlian representing Alex Murdaugh, since he was also representing Paul at the time of his demise? Um, I have thoughts. I have thoughts that when it comes to family representation that way, especially since some of the leading towards the instigation date, the insinuation rather, that Alex Murdaugh was involved somehow in the way the boating incident was handled. Not the boating incident himself, only that he owned the boat jointly with his wife, by the way. It was the Murdaugh family boat that the incident occurred on, and Paul was being represented for that case. And this is how Alex knew that Paul was coming up on charge, like going to be charged. Harpoolian would have known that. Okay. I don't really think it's a conflict of interest in regards to the murder, but it should be. Like, don't you think that if he represented one of the victims, why is he representing the murderer, the accused murderer? To me, um, he could there's nothing that makes you recuse yourself that way, and it would be up to the prosecution and the judge to say that that was absolutely a conflict, because the conflict would be towards Alex. And if Alex has confidence that Harpoolian is going to give him the best representation possible, that's where the judge is going to leave it. Does that make sense? Like, in other words, it looks obvious to us that, hey, that might be a little but then again, it's a family lawyer and he represents all the family. And if there's the trust there that he's going to come forward and he believes in his innocence, that's what's important. You know, I don't think the prosecution has an objection because Paul had not been charged yet. There wasn't actually an indicted charge against him. They were just looking at him. He could have brought it up. They're not. And I don't think the judge is making an issue on it. Does that sound, plausible? I mean, I could see why everybody would think it is right away, but I mean, that's just my opinion. Remember, um, who knows? Maybe it'll come up later. I don't know. But right now, there's not a lot of objection going on to it. And Liam, you're right. That's the kind of witness list you publish to put fear in the hearts of the opposition. I agree with you. And normally that would, but have you met Harpoolian? Like, I don't think that man fears anything. He always, like, he's looking for the fight. He's been dismantling them before trial already. He's taken apart evidence. He's leaked information contrary to everything, and he did publish an alibi out there for the public to read about that kind of puts that seed of doubt. And remember, trials are all about the seed of doubt and the jury. Yeah, you know, that's what it's all about. So, yeah, in that case, I think he did a really, really good job. Okay. He is a bulldog. What do you mean playing the part of the bulldog? He is a bulldog. Absolutely. His case history is phenomenal, okay? And yeah, I get it always. And always is from that area. She knows this family. She's the actual news sites right there. They're all talking about it, everything. I would imagine that area is absolutely entrenched with this case. You can't go anywhere without hearing about it. Um, but on that, with all of your permission, if there aren't any more questions on it, I did answer. I believe the turtle moves. They are predicted to only last the 2 weeks. And like I said, all of those witnesses, I doubt all 255 people will come up. That we'll see. I mean, just recent trials that I saw. I mean, even on a short defense list, that they had only 5 witnesses put up, and only one of them sat. And that was a joint witness. It was only because they were on the prosecution's team too. And the prosecution is the one that brought them forward. The defense ended up bringing no one. hmm Well, I know you're from there, is what I mean. Always, yeah. Not actually still there. Liam, Liam, behave yourself. Don't be typing that stuff out in the chat. The internet is forever. Just a reminder. Just a reminder, boo. Don't be putting that stuff out there. Okay. So bye to South Carolina, on to San Diego. This is Maya Millette. Millete. Okay. Her family is from the Philippines. She's a beautiful young woman, the wife of, and she has 3 children. She's the wife of Larry Millette. She's been missing since January 7th of 2021. Last seen entering her house, never came out. And her house has a lot of video surveillance, which is part of this case. Okay. And that video surveillance has been checked, and she never left. the house, according, unless, of course, the one of the theories is that she crawled out a window and climbed over the back fence in one port corner where the camera didn't exactly reach. And that happens to be part of the defense. Bonita Martinez is the defense attorney for Larry Millette. Larry Millette is up on indictment right now, and in his pretrial hearing in front of Judge Dwayne Morris, with the prosecution head prosecutor Summer Steffen putting forth their case against him to see if it's enough to go to trial. And at the end of this pretrial hearing, which is already in the second week, it did take a break in between. I think we're on day 9, okay, of what's expected to be a couple more days based on it laying out the case. The defense is now trying to dismantle what has already had in front of, put opposition in front of Judge Morris in regards to some of the testimony and some of the evidence that they're putting forth. It will be his decision on whether they go forward with the trial after this and whether he will be facing a trial for murder. Okay. Maya has been missing since January 7th. But her body has not been found. They have also no signs of life, no credit card activity, no messages to her family, nothing. Okay. She had 3 children, 2 daughters of substantial age, as you can see there. They're blurred out. That was one of the most recent pictures. And a younger, I believe it's a boy, and a younger child, Lazarus, who was around 4 at the time of her disappearance. Um, Larry Millette is quite the character. I have covered this before when he was indicted. Larry Millette was a bit obsessive based on the allegations of text messages, phone calls, and now in the pretrial hearing, all of the members of Maya's family have come forward about the texting every day from him, the controlling attitude, trying to get them to keep him and Maya together. Maya was sending text messages to her family prior to January 7th, her disappearance, about wanting to leave him, about his controlling nature. She even spent some time in 2020 at her brother and sister-in-law's home because she needed a break from him because she found out he was doing video surveillance of her and tracking surveillance on her phone and everywhere else. Okay. He had also emailed a coworker of some supervision type position over her that came out in the trial and it was reported prior to speculate about an affair she was having at work, which that rumor was brought forward by a woman at work, and the misunderstanding at work was settled. Nobody at work thought she was having an affair with anyone. There was a young man named Jamie who was questioned by detectives and everything. And he does not know her whereabouts. Larry Millette is saying she had an affair and she's obviously ran off with this Jamie. No. Then they're saying she ran off to the Philippines. But why would she leave her children? Why would she leave her family? Okay. All of the family testified that the day after her disappearance, on the 8th, they were all getting together to celebrate her daughter's birthday. They were going on a big hike, as they normally do, the family does. They do these big celebrations. They're a tight knit family. Whenever Maya had anything going on, she's texting her brothers and sisters, and her father gave testimony. Her brother and her father both went to the house after she was missing, and they couldn't get in touch with her about this big hike that they're all going on, this big celebration. She's not answering anything. The brother was told that she got into an argument with him and locked herself in her room, that she got into an argument with Larry and locked herself in the room. Now, the brother, during the testimony in this pretrial hearing, said that he did not contest it nor ask Larry to open the door or ask any further questions because he didn't want to be rude. He was used to dealing with Larry almost on a daily basis since they had their marital problems. If you remember, or I shall refresh your memory, Larry Millette is the one who was on the internet with the wildest searches. How to subliminally make my wife obey, how to use white noise to get her in control, how to make her love me again. Well, let me go to the witchcraft spellers and let me buy some spells to either make her sick enough to stay so that I need to take care of her, or can you just make her love me again? These are the emails. These are the messages. This is all in evidence. It's wild. Okay. Circumstantially, and I know, remember, some of you that have followed me for a while will remember when my friend Jay from True Serial would come up here and he would say, Claire, no body, no case. And I'd say, hey, sometimes circumstantial evidence can lead up to a bunch of stuff. Okay. Larry Millette is also on charges of possession of weapon. There is also audio that sounds like muffled large bangs like a gun. Although there's also contrary testimony from a neighbor saying she did not hear any gunshots. And they say the audio is not enough because it doesn't clearly define those bangs as a gun. However, we do have the testimony and the audio and the video evidence of when the brother went to the house, one of the younger daughters said, Mom's been in that room for 11 years, 11 hours rather, and she has not come out to feed us. Maya has always been a really good mother. The family will attest they're well cared for children. She's devoted to them. She's not going to not feed her children, regardless of being mad at her husband for 11 hours. This made the brother so concerned he went and got a hold of the father and said, we need to do something. There's something wrong. Something's not right. But when he was at the house, he felt he didn't want to cross boundaries, because, Larry's the husband and, he's not going to push on it. Okay. He has many, many text messages with his sister back and forth about Larry being controlling, how she wants to leave. The father goes to the house, and Larry is saying the same thing. First, he says that she's up there because she had a headache and, she wanted to work and they had an argument and she wanted to get it away. Then he says, well, maybe she left and went for a walk. Maybe she's not really there. Maybe she left us. She needed to clear her head or whatever. But he doesn't say he saw her leave, and neither do any of the children. Nobody saw her leave the house, and the door to the bedroom is still locked. So the father goes up and starts banging on the door. And then he says, well, do you have a key for it? And magically, out of his pocket, Larry pulls the key. This is the testimony of the father during the pretrial hearing. That was translated by a translator. And he says Larry pulled it out of his pocket and opened the door. And the father went in, and there is no Maya. There is no Maya. He looks around. Well, Larry comes in behind him. He says, and this is his testimony, he goes straight to the desk where she works and says, oh my goodness, her credit card is missing. At that point, the father is like, what? Why? Your wife is missing. What are you talking about, a credit card? And the way, now that he thinks about it, he thought that that was pertinent and he wanted to tell somebody about it. So he reported it that way to the police. Why would he absolutely worry about the credit card? Go right to the desk where it always is to tell me that it was missing. Like I care. My daughter is supposed to be on a hike with all of us and we can't find her. And this is your answer. And you can unlock this door, but you haven't in the last 11 to 12 hours. The children haven't been fed. Everybody's worried where Maya is. And you didn't unlock this door until now. There were so many questions. Everything Larry did led to suspicion. Everything, including backing up the SUV to the garage first thing in the morning, the day after, loading something in and out of it from the garage, and then taking his 4-year-old son and leaving for 12 hours. No one could contact him by phone. His phone was off. I should mention at this point that searches on his computer led to, can you get a signal when your phone is turned off? Can you get a location if you're in airplane mode? Things like that. Yeah. Also things like divorce, physically abuse. If I lay hands on my wife, is that always physical abuse? Things like this. Searches for rohypnol. Rohivno. Hmm. Yeah. How to s- how to subliminally control your wife. Hmm. Interesting searches, don't you think? And now he's backing a big old black SUV to the garage door and possibly loading things in a knife, which he says for a 4-year-old himself were several coolers with ice full of snacks and things that they would need for their adventure. Because he says at first that he left with the son so that Maya could have quiet to work at home, even though he hadn't talked to her since the day before. Yeah, the story kept changing just a little bit. Little things like this that had Detective Vicente suspicious. The main detective, the main detective from Chula Vista, where they live, that was doing the investigation and also filed the probable cause warrant on Larry Millette. Um, He thought that was quite suspicious. So did Detective Ruiz, another one doing the investigations. Okay. A lot of the statements from Larry didn't make sense. When Larry was interrogated about where he went with his son Lazarus for those 12 hours, he said one park, and when shown a map, pointed to another, way far away. Larry could have been just confused and upset. After all, he's being accused of something and his wife is missing. It's bad enough that he wants this marriage to work. He's trying to control every aspect of her life. He's accusing her of having affairs. He says she doesn't love him anymore. She herself says she's finding it quite hard to stay in this relationship through all of her text messages to her friends. Her friend Kristen Timmins, who actually testified, who said that the controlling nature was getting too much for Maya to bear, that she was doing what she could. She loved her children, whatever, but that she was in a position now to fight for what was hers. And she wasn't going to let him win. And to that end, she also, the day before her disappearance, Maya Millette had a phone conversation with a lawyer's office. And that person she talked to testified today or during this pretrial hearing, in the very first days of the pretrial hearing a week ago. Her name her name was Destiny Johnson, and she was the law clerk, and she had quite the conversation with Maya. And she presented that Maya was fearful that if her husband found out that she was going to see a lawyer, that things would get even worse. She didn't want to come to the office because she knew he would track her. She was afraid that the phone conversation themselves he would find out about. She got advice from the law clerk. The law clerk told her it sounds like a terrible situation you're in. And I'm extrapolating words here. These are not word for word what she said. But basically, her testimony is that she advised Maya due to the what she thought to be a very strenuous situation for her that she needed to see a lawyer right away and that she should actually protect herself. And she needed to come in and start the process immediately and start extraction immediately. She gave her advice. She sent her a questionnaire to the house, which she said in trial she regrets. She doesn't know if he saw it. She doesn't know what happened, but she feels awful that that conversation that she had with her was one of the last and that it could have been what started the argument that led to her disappearance. Um, that was something to hear because that kind of stuck with me. Like I say all the time, all of the different people affected by these crimes, it's not just the one up on trial or even just the family members of those that are gone, the children that are left behind, the people that dealt with them on a daily basis, all Maya's co workers, okay, and a law clerk that was just trying to help, who now feels responsible in some way that she may have contributed. Maya wanted a divorce. Larry Millette didn't. The prosecution is using this as motive. This is Larry. This was during the pre-trial. I think that was like 2 days ago. Okay. This is Larry's attorney, Bonita Martinez. You're going to hear a lot of speculation about her. Number one, she's a family law attorney. She's not used to this criminal trial setup, and the judge often needs to correct her on form and questions in the right way to do something. The judge, Dwayne Morris, is being very patient. I have to admire, I have to really give him credit. He's in a tough situation here. He understands there's a bit of a language barrier. He understands that Bonita Martinez occasionally her phrasing in English is obviously her second language, and obvious that Larry Millette is more comfortable with her because they can speak, they have familiarity. He may have been consulting her prior into relations with Maya in regards to legally what he could do. Who knows? But he feels quite comfortable with her. But her situation here in a criminal law case, it becomes that, even in the questioning that she goes against the witnesses and how she phrases it, the judge often has to intervene to have her rephrase it before the prosecution can come up with a very valuable objection. And that's what he keeps saying. Like, I'm going to intervene here and object myself because prosecution has every right to do it right now with what you're doing. And let me tell you why. And he's trying to educate her. He's being quite kind about it. He doesn't need to be, but what he wants is justice for the victim and for Larry. That's his job, right? His job is to keep it fair. Okay. And so he's being kind, at the same time getting immensely frustrated. You can see it with what's happening in the courtroom because although everyone is reporting her to be inept in how she understands procedure, I must admit, she has laid out those seeds of doubt there. She has accused Maya of being a partier, of having an affair. She has asked every member of the family, did you know about that affair? Like, how could you say? She said, well, if you didn't know about the affair, this was the big one. Well, Larry says there was an affair. There wasn't a rumor of an affair. You've talked to someone. Why would the detective go and interview this man, Jamie, if there was no inference there that there might have been an affair? He says, and no one in the family will admit to knowing about it. So you're obviously all not that close to her. So she might be in the Philippines and just not talking to you. No body, no death. She did a good job of that. She did. I have to applaud her for that. Even with the being pushed back on how she was questioning people and things like that, she did an excellent job of that. That's out there now. No body, no death. And obviously, all these people from the family, the father, the sister, the brother, the sister in law, the friend, everybody up there, what they said, now it's like, well, maybe you weren't that close if you didn't know about it and it happened. Nice seeds of doubt. She's also talking about how Larry would be upset if the family got together and celebrated and partied because then Maya would be moody and hungover the next day. And that everybody knows he had a problem with it, that Maya was a partier. And when Bonita Martinez actually went to the sister, Mary Chris, about this, she said, I don't know that. And then Mary Chris just looked right at the judge and said, this woman is trying to say my sister really drank a lot, and I'm telling you she didn't. She just said she just said it right out. She said, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to paint her. It's not true. There was a lot of pushback like that. The family was very polite and reserved, and they're going through a loss. There's also the contention of who has custody of the children right now. Right now, the guardianship is with the parents of Maya, but the sister, Mary Chris, wants guardianship also. She feels that she's younger and she should raise the children. But both parties agree they don't want Larry Millette anywhere near them. And Larry Millette is still fighting to see his kids. The lawyer has made arrangements that they can be seen. Prosecution has actually got permission from the court to interview the children in regards to the case, the murder of their mother. Okay, so like there's a lot going on there too. Those three children displaced. Hmm. Well, it is quite the pretrial. All the evidence being out there. This is the family. Up there is the brother, Jay Jr., his wife, Janice, in the green shirt. That would be Mary Chris, her sister, and this is her father, Pablito, and his translator that they needed for the trial. But they are Philippine in very close family. They were, like they said, there was a huge, how could they say they're not a close family when they did this huge celebration with everybody involved happening on the 8th, which is why they knew she was missing. Okay, which is why they started looking for her. Okay, and yet Bonita Martinez wants to say, you guys, you're not so close, you don't know, because she's trying to get over this overwhelming evidence that's coming forward, but she can't deny all the text messages. They spent 2 days just going over the text messages that the family has been receiving. And today, again, the brother was back on the stand going over all the text messages. And again, Detective Vicente going over all the evidence and how he found it. Okay, it was quite something. Um, it was, but a lot of the delay that's going on is in regards to, I believe, the defense. Bonita Martinez's style. It takes her so long to understand what's being asked of her and how to actually produce it. Point example, she asked Detective Vicente a question about one of his reports, about a witness statement. He admits he spoke to a lot of witnesses. He says to her, "Could you refresh my memory? Which witness are you speaking about? Which day? Which report?" It took 15 minutes back and forth because she doesn't understand the system to try to get just the report she was talking about, so he had the book right in front of him that he of his own reports that he could have went to, refreshed his memory, and talked to her about. And I watched for, I'd say, about 15 minutes might be an exaggeration. Let me say anywhere from 6 to 10 minutes while that went back and forth between the judge and the defense and the prosecution. And while Detective Vicente sat there so patient, squirming in his chair, uncomfortable, looking at the judge, what do I do? Can I just open my book and just start looking? Because you can't, as you got to wait until they tell you what you are allowed to look at, in your testimony, so that the testimony doesn't get thrown out. He did a really good job of being patient, you know, and, and, you know, it was very, very frustrating. Very, very frustrating indeed. This is Detective Ruiz. That was Detective Vicente. And can you see on his face? This was today, I believe. We were going over testimony again, and he's trying so hard. I picked this picture because to me it meant like it just captured what I heard and saw in his voice. And he's trying so hard to not have his testimony thrown out, and he's getting frustrated, but he's trying to do the best that he can and answer the defense's question as accurately and proficiently as he can because, I see there a man who believes in justice and the law, and he's trying to do everything the right way. Look at the confusion on Detective Ruiz's face as Bonita Martinez is questioning him. He's like, what are you asking me? Like they're trying to figure it out. The judge often has to interpret for her what she's actually getting at and then instruct her how to reformulate her question so that it's understood and the prosecution can't object. And the prosecution is holding back on some of the objections by just looking at the judge, and they've got like this single going on, you know. But yeah, yes, interesting, interesting. Okay, so we'll go back. We'll go back to my. Let me pull up some questions if- before we head off. If you have anything on this one. hmm To stop being tracked requires wearing the correct crystal to cancel the signal from the SG gate chip. I know. That's the crazy part of this case that he actually was trying to get some, witchcraft healers and spellcasters. Like he was paying the money, you know? Yeah. Mhm. Hi, Mrs. Cassandra and Liam. Thank you for joining us. Hey, Grace. Grace. Nice to see you. Okay. Didn't they find a phone or device under the bed with subliminal messaging which he could play on a loop during her sleep? Yes, and she did too. Yes, she was quite upset about it. She was texting back and forth, and yes, it was still there because she found it and put it back. But there were actually that's part of the texts that were going back and forth from the siblings and everything, and from her friend. This was one of the reasons she decided to actually go forward with the divorce. This was just too much. I mean, I can actually, I mean, can you all imagine? Like your husband wants to control you or your partner. Say it's the reverse, even men, if it's your wife or, any partner. Okay. Subliminal messages to control you, to make you change your behavior. It definitely points to a desperate frame of mind. Everything Larry was doing. Although I would mention on that point, I'm glad you brought that up, Liam, because Larry did pass a competency to face trial. They did bring that up, and I believe it was in June or July of last year. His defense attorneys did bring that up, that perhaps we should check this out with the amount of evidence of the things that he was saying in the text messages and the internet searches, and just like the confusion in actually his statements back and forth. Maybe we should check and see if he's all there. And they did, and he did pass the competency, and everything went forward. So that's not going to be part of it. You know, could it be a crime of passion? Yes, but quite clever to pull that if it's a crime of passion, he did make quite a few statements and do quite a few things prior. Yep, Liam, it is the one without the body. 2 years missing since last January the 7th, 2021. Last day seen, they got her on video going into the house. They got her never coming out. Mm, yep. All right, I'm just coming back down again. You said there is a language barrier. What is his nationality? I do believe they are all Filipino. I'm not sure about Larry, but I know Maya's family is. And I do believe, based on looking, that perhaps whatever the language barrier is, there was another comment, I think, from Always. I do believe they're Filipino, but I do believe that there was another comment that said perhaps, the defense attorney would need a translator. And I'm wondering if that's even, I have to look that up because I could see some legalities there. If you have a translator about the law, the translator doesn't know the law. um, I'm wondering. I'm wondering if they could have done that. But see, it's not yes, how she presents her language is part of the problem, but it's actually her lack of knowledge in how to put the evidence forward and what is in a criminal court, what is actually the procedure in questioning and what are the objectionable things and what aren't. It is the phrasing and the admission of evidence and all of this other stuff that is very pertinent that she's not familiar with because she's a family attorney. Okay. Um, it's a whole different procedure. There's a whole different things that, and she's not as familiar with it. And the judge is being having to educate her. I don't think a translator could help with that. It would help with them understanding clear what her question is, but it's actually her questions and what she and how she's going about it that was part of the problem. He did. The attorney is. Are you speaking about the judge? Because yes, I have to say, Dwayne Judge. I believe it's Judge Dwayne Mooring. Yes, he is patient, absolutely patient. From what I saw today, excellent. That's what you want to see in a judge. There may be cultural misunderstandings as well as language ones, which is what they brought forward with the brother. Like, why didn't you pound that door down? Like, especially when the brother gave testimony that he watched one of the daughters walk up to the door and start kicking it. And he still didn't say anything to Larry about opening that door. Cultural differences in regards to the man of the house. I do believe that was there in regards to the brothers' interactions with Larry. Um, but and also in how they're phrasing things in the courtroom, how she's saying the questions. Yeah. But she just got her defense theory out there that Maya is alive and in the Philippines and just doesn't care to talk to any of you people. Which based on the fact that she has children, I mean, they used the same thing in the Morphew case about Suzanne Morphew disappearing, and she's really alive, but she wouldn't have anything to do with her daughters. Her daughters that she saw frequently and loved and had raised them to young women. And I can't see her walking away. But they did put that out as a defense as to no body, no case. Always grateful. I had heard that when he first went to spellcasters, he wanted her to be more in love. Then he began asking for spells, which would cause enough injury to keep her depending on him. Yeah, that's what I was saying before. Can you make her sick enough that I have to take care of her so she can't leave? Or can you at least make her love me again so she doesn't want to? I mean, I'll take either one. He was like, he wasn't picky. Yeah, okay. I And this is true. I know some young people from the Philippines who have pointed out that superstition and folk remedies are still a heavy part of their culture, which could be why Larry Millette felt comfortable going to a spellcaster for witchcraft or folklore, figuring that that may help, and just turn the tide. It is a little weird, okay? And yes, Liam, a more versed bilingual, whoop, where is he? Maybe a more versed bilingual second chair. She has a second chair, but he's really quiet. He just fumbles through papers over there from what I saw. Um, Someone who has she has a good grasp of the English language. It's just how her phrasing and all. And it might just be the legal part of it that's the problem. But yeah, a better bilingual second chair would be helpful in the phrasing and stuff. And also perhaps partnering with someone who has more criminal experience could be a big help, because what we don't want is this thrown out for bad representation. If the judge feels that she's not doing a good enough job to protect Larry Millette's interests, this could be a problem. Okay. This could be a problem down the line. Yeah. I mean, as I see it. Mm. Yes, Mrs. Cassandra, the child was thinking her mother was there because that's what her father told her, that the mother was working in there. She didn't want to be bothered. She had a headache, whatever. And they thought that she was in there for 11 hours and just not feeding them or wanting anything to do with them. And so they were getting like they were kicking the door and they didn't understand because that was not normal behavior for Maya. As much as Larry says it was, the children's actions and the family's actions prove it was not normal behavior for Maya. And this is what Detective Vicente kept saying. Based on all the conversations of everyone involved, this was not normal behavior for her. And it is not believed that she would actually just leave. Now, there was the last thing that I will say came up in the pre-trial, and we had heard about this in the evidence before, was that people were making that there was a sighting in a hotel somewhere of a young Asian woman in a parking garage, staying at that hotel, and that it was believed to be Maya. The he was asked questions by both the prosecution and the defense in regards to this, and he, being Detective Vicente, that it was investigated. They did contact the hotel. The hotel went over the audio footage. They looked at the pictures of Maya. They said it couldn't have been, it was not her. There was not enough there to identify her, and there was no one registered at the hotel that fit for Maya. No other suspicious activity. It's not being classified as a sighting of Maya. No, it has been dismissed as such with not enough credible evidence or anything like that. Now, he also said that there was someone that was obviously this person was at risk. They thought maybe they were being taken away for trafficking, for you know, uh, kidnapped in some way. And the detective came through with the statistics that usually someone over 30 years old is not necessarily the target. Although, as you can see, Maya does not look over. I mean, she's a very beautiful young woman. Okay. But the reason they don't target anyone in her age group is because they normally have families that are going to come looking for them. And it's usually like children and everyone else involved, is going to be much more of a search and they could get caught easier. They go for younger because there's going to be less people looking for them. They're less entrenched in the community at that point in their age, at the age in their life. You know what I mean? Like it's a little bit less risk. I mean, it's risky in general. Obviously, you're stealing humans, but still. Um, okay. Yep. Yep, it definitely this lack of knowledge in criminal cases is the cause for the issues in her court. Absolutely. She doesn't even have the format down on what's allowable or not, as far as how far you could go about the evidence, how to reformulate it about what's already been said. Yeah, no. Hmm. Yep. Having someone skilled in the specialist lingo of this kind of trial would help her. He obviously feels comfortable with her as his lawyers, but she can't be learning a new skill set on the fly. Exactly. And what really concerns me, Liam, is that she's had a year to figure it out. Several times in motion hearings, she didn't even present. She let somebody else come for the things that she was sick or whatever, or there was a conflict. She wasn't even there for the motions hearings and things. So it does concern me. She had a year to prepare or to at least understand that she's not that familiar with it. All right, she could have petitioned the court to add somebody to the defense during this pretrial when she realized in the beginning that she was getting all this pushback in Larry's defense, that maybe that should have happened. But Larry does appear to be comfortable, and it is up to him. If he says boo, things will happen. If he says, I'm getting uncomfortable here, I think we need two people representing me, maybe he cannot afford it, but he could ask the court. He could ask the court. If he feels that the language barrier is an issue or her lack of familiarity, he could ask the court for a public defender to sit second chair. I'm not sure that they would pay for that, but I mean, he could make the squeaky wheel. But what could happen if he does is that they kick her from the case, okay, and tell him to find another lawyer or a public defender. And he does seem to be comfortable with her, that she understands his culture and where she's coming from. She is an older woman. Okay, so he doesn't have that pushback of the new mentality of people from his culture that would be like, you can't say this to your wife, you can't say that to your wife, and oh my gosh, what you did. Perhaps she understands where he was coming from, and he feels quite comfortable. He does obviously feel comfortable. She is a family attorney, and he's bringing her forward for a criminal case. But like I said, it could be an issue down the road. He is absolutely entitled to a fair trial. I agree, Crazy. He could get a public defender if he cannot afford attorney. Absolutely. Well, that's going to be up to them, to do that. So, on that, I think we're going to at an hour and just over 15, unless there are any other questions. We'll continue with the Murdaugh trial, following through, every day. I doubt I will be putting out a live stream every day on it. I don't know if there'll be enough, but all of the key features we will be following and watching. And I'm going to continue until the end of the pretrial hearing with Millete. Next up here for true crime will be a brief update on Sarah Boone. And then towards Thursday, we've got a political stream in regards to one of these things is not like the other in the United States. It's a political stream about some things that are going on in the United States. And then on the weekend, of course, we will have our Let Our Hair Down regular stream on Saturday night. Okay. As far as the trials, I may pop in here and there with short ones to keep you updated. So you'll just have to subscribe to get on that community tab and get on that like notifications, ring that bell so you know when I do come out with something. On that, don't forget to like, share, and comment. And I will see you all again very soon. Good night.